In today's video, we're going to talk about how to create a Bitbucket project inside of CloudBees CI. Are you new here? If you are, welcome. And if you are new here, you don't know who I am. My name is Darren Pope, and I'm a developer advocate for CloudBees. In other videos, I've talked about using multi-branch jobs to manage multiple pipelines. As we move into Bitbucket project job type, it is a folder of multi-branch jobs. So if you think about it, as a CloudBees CI administrator, if you set up your Bitbucket project job correctly, in theory, you can walk away and never do anything again. Okay, well, maybe not. But here's the key. Every time a new team comes on, they don't have to set up a new job. If they follow the conventions that you put forward in creating these Bitbucket projects, they can just go into Bitbucket, create repositories, and the jobs will be created automatically for them. Not just created, but managed over time for them within your CloudBees CI controller. As we get started today, let's set the table. We are running a CloudBees CI controller. It's version 2.277.1.2. When it was installed, I used install suggested plugins. And I also installed one more plugin in order for this to work. And that plugin is Bitbucket Branch Source Plugin. To this controller, I have attached to it an agent with the label of Linux. And I also have a tunnel set up via ngrok so I can receive webhooks from Bitbucket Cloud. As we go through the video today, know that I am working with Bitbucket Cloud. If you're using Bitbucket Server or Bitbucket Data Center, your instructions to set these things up will be a little bit different. Down in the description of this video, there are links to knowledge base articles to help you set up Bitbucket Server to do the same things that I'm showing you today with Bitbucket Cloud. In Bitbucket, I have a project. The project name is Planet Pope, and I have 3 repositories in this project. I have Micro 1, Micro 2, and multi-branch sample app. Now you'll come to see why I have these 3 and how I'm using them as we go throughout today. But to sort of pull back the curtain a little bit on it, the only 2 repositories we care about today are Micro 1 and Micro 2. At this point, they are exactly the same, and within the repositories, there is only a README. That's all. Micro 1, Micro 2, there is a readme.md file at the root of each repository. To begin with, we need to create an app password that we will be able to use as a credential within our controller. So to do that, we're going to go to our, in my case, personal settings. Yours may be a little bit different even if you're using Bitbucket Cloud. So go to the account and you're going to set up an app password. We're going to create an app password. And in my case, the label is going to be CBCI Darren Pope. We need to set 2 permissions, which in the end will give us 3 permissions. The first one we're going to check off is pull request read. But as I check pull request read, notice what happens to repositories read. It is also checked. And if you think about it, that sort of makes sense. A pull request has dependencies on a repository, so pull request makes sense that it automatically carries along a repository read. The other thing that we're going to do is I'm going to allow my controller to manage the webhooks within Micro 1 and Micro 2. So I'm also going to allow permissions for read and write for webhooks. So, quick recap. I gave it a name of CBCI-Darren Pope, pull request read, and webhooks read and write. And then repositories read was also checked because of pull requests. So let's go ahead and click on create. And now we have an app password. I'm going to copy this app password and save it for myself. Okay, cool. So now we have created the app password. Let's go over to our controller and create the credential. So we're at the root of our controller. I'm going to click on Manage Jenkins and then Manage Credentials. And I'm going to click on Global and finally Add Credentials. The kind of credential that we're going to create is a username with password. The username is going to be the account name for Bitbucket. So in my case, it's Darren Pope. The password that we're using is the app password that we just created, which I have copied over here. Let me go grab it. And then for the ID in the description, I'm going to give it CBCI-Darren Pope for both. Whoops. I thought I'd copy that. There we go. And there's the credential. One more thing before we get started. We also need to go ahead and set up our controller to manage the webhooks. So under Manage Jenkins, Configure System, we're going to go down to Bitbucket Endpoints. Now you can see there's already a Bitbucket Cloud endpoint that's here. If you're using Bitbucket Server, what you would do is you would click on Bitbucket Server, add that section, and then you would get rid of Bitbucket Cloud. And then you would configure this however you need to configure it. But in my case, since I am using Bitbucket Cloud, the only thing I need to turn on is Manage Hooks. It scrolls down automatically. Just go ahead and scroll back up. The credential that we're going to use is the credential based on the app password, which is what I have automatically selected. And then the Jenkins root URL is going to be my ngrok URL. And that's it. Just the two things, the credential, and because I have different URLs, Bitbucket Cloud needs to be able to send the messages to the ngrok URL, which then forwards it on to me. So let's click on Save. So now we are all set up and ready to go and create our Bitbucket project. Okay, let's go ahead and click on New Item. I'm going to give it a name of Darren Pope. And I'm going to scroll down and select Bitbucket Team /project. For the rest of this video, I'll call it Bitbucket Project or Bitbucket Project Job, something like that, but this is what I'm talking about. So we select that, click OK. As it loads in, under the Bitbucket Team project for credentials, we are going to select the app password-based credential. For owner, this is the account name that's associated with Bitbucket Cloud in this case. If you click on Help, and if you're using Bitbucket Server, this could also be a Bitbucket project for you, or it could be a Bitbucket team. Knowing which kind of version you're running will determine how you configure this owner. In my case, my account name is Darren Pope. That's what we're going to use. For behaviors, we have 3 behaviors by default. We have discover branches, discover pull requests, actually twice, one from origin and one from forks. We're going to add in one more behavior today. Remember, in my Planet Pope project, I have 3 repositories, but I only care about the ones that begin with micro. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a repository filter. Now you'll notice there is a filter by name with wildcards under the repositories divider. There is also a filter by name with wildcards under the within repository divider. This is not the one that we want to use. We want to use the filter by name with wildcards under the repositories divider. When we select that, we need to change this to include micro star. And then our project recognizer is Jenkinsfile. Now remember, within our repositories, the only files we have in there are a README file. That's all, no Jenkins files. So when I click save here, what do you think is going to happen? Let's see. So we go off, we scan the organization. We're scanning the Bitbucket project, or in my case, account. We can see that we looked up micro 1. There was no Jenkins file found, so it was skipped. We look at micro 2. Again, that passes our inclusion filter. Again, still no Jenkins file found. That was skipped. And we can see here that our multi-branch sample app repository was completely ignored because of that filter that we added. So this will be the last time I talk about multi-branch sample app, at least on purpose. So right now we're targeting both micro 1 and micro 2. However, during the scan, both were skipped because there was no Jenkins file found for either repository. So if we click on my name in the breadcrumb, you're going to see something happen here. Number one, we now see the description, or actually the full name, since this is an account-based account with Bitbucket Cloud. So you just see my name there. You also can tell in the breadcrumb that that was replaced as well. The folder name is still Darren Pope. This goes back to the introduction. Remember, an organization job type, which is this Bitbucket project is type of, an organization type is a folder of multibranch. And also remember that multibranches are a folder of pipeline. So as we set this up, anytime a new repository is created within Bitbucket, if it follows the conventions, and right now the convention is the repository must start with the word micro, all lowercase, and it has a Jenkins file at the root, a multi-branch job will be automatically created for that repository. One more thing I want to show you before we move on. Let's go back over to our micro 1 repository and let's take a look at the webhooks. So we'll go to repository setting, webhooks. If you look here, currently there are no hooks under repository hooks, which is what we're looking for. So with Bitbucket, until a repository is matched, if you want to call it that, the hook will not be created. So the hooks aren't created automatically. The hooks are created only when a match has occurred, meaning a Jenkins file has been found. So we'll leave this here for the moment. We have our job ready to go. Let's create a Jenkins file in our micro 1 repository. Now, why did I say Jenkins file? It goes back to our project recognizer for this job. Under project recognizers, we have pipeline Jenkins file, the script path, meaning the name of the file and the path to get to the file, is Jenkins file. At the moment for this Bitbucket project, we only have one recognizer. We'll come back and visit this again a little bit later. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and go over to a shell, and I'm currently on the main branch of the micro 1 repository. I'm going to create a new Jenkins file, and it's a very simple Jenkins file. It's got one stage, and we're just doing an echo within our agent. So let's go ahead and save this. And then let's add the Jenkins file. Let's commit it. And let's push it up to Bitbucket. Now, what do you think is going to happen? Let's think about how everything is set up right now. We currently don't have any webhooks set up. And since our job currently does not know about the project, then there's nothing that's going to happen because there was no webhook sent when we did the commit and push to that repository. So what I'm going to do is I am going to click on Scan Organization Folder now to force a scan of the Darren Pope organization, the account, and let's see what happened. When you click on Scan Organization Folder now, it's much like when you scan a repository in a multibranch, it doesn't automatically show the log, so I had to click over to the log. So you can tell right now that this is the current time. We started an organization scan, and we get down into micro 1, which is, this is the first time it's referenced. Checking branch main, there was a Jenkins file found, it met criteria, one branch was processed. If we look down here at micro 2, there was no Jenkins file found. We haven't added one there yet. So that one was skipped. So let's go back and take a look at our org folder now. Now we can see our micro 1 repository. We see our main branch. And if we were to take a look at the output of this run, we're going to see that it obtained a Jenkins file from, this was the commit hash, and then it says hello from Jenkinsfile. Let's go ahead and take a quick look back at our micro 1 repository. If we refresh this page about webhooks, what we're going to see now is our repository hook now has the correct URL, in my case for ngrok, going to the right path to notify us of any webhooks. This endpoint is inside of the Bitbucket branch source plugin. So from this point forward, until this webhook is deleted, we will be receiving webhooks for anything that happens within this repository. What I would like to do now is go ahead and create a new branch from main to get us ready to look at a pull request. So let's go back over to our shell. I'm going to say git checkout-b fix-123. And from here, what I want to do is I am going to just push this branch directly up to Bitbucket. Now, as we push that branch up to Bitbucket, we made no changes, but what I expect is that the fix-123 branch will now show up inside of our micro 1 multi-branch job, because remember, within an organization folder, Darren Pope, we have multi-branch jobs, micro 1. So let's take a look at fix-123. And if we take a look at the output, we're going to see obtain Jenkinsfile, and we go down and we see now hello from Jenkinsfile. Again, we had not made any changes to the Jenkins file on fix-123. We were just creating a new branch, so the job was created. Now what we want to do is make a change to the Jenkins file in preparation for creating a pull request that will be merged to main. So let's go back over here to our Jenkins file, and we are going to create 2 new stages. So let me grab those. Okay. I have 2 stages added. So we still have our hello stage. That still stays the same. We've added a stage for handling fixed branches by using this conditional when branch fix dash star. If we find a branch that has fix dash whatever, it's going to cat out the README. If we have, in the other stage, a branch that begins with PR dash, which in our case is a pull request, then it will echo out this line. Let's go ahead and save this. And let's add those changes and do that and push it up. So we made the change to our Jenkins file on the fix 123 branch, and we added, committed, pushed the change. Let's see what happens. Since I know I'm on micro 1, we'll click there. Let's look at fix 123. We just had a build. Let's take a look at this. We have the hello. We have the cat of the README because we just did a push from the fix-123 branch, which covers that stage. But then the stage for the PR was skipped because the branch did not start with PR dash. So everything is happening as we expect on the fix 123 branch. Okay, let's go back over now to Bitbucket and create a pull request. So I'm going to click on micro 1, pull request. I'm going to create a pull request. And we're wanting to go from fix 123 to main. I'm also going to go ahead and have it close the fix 123 branch after the pull request is merged. That way I don't have to go back and clean up the branch. And then let's click on create a pull request. And as this pull request is created, we can see here that the only changes we have are these two stages that we added. Let's go back over to our repository. And what you'll see now is under pull requests, we now have a PR3. And this PR3, we can tell, maps back to our PR number 3, which is right up here near the top. Within PR3, we had the job run once. And we can see that we have our, where is it? There it is. Our hello from Jenkinsfile. We skipped the fix branch stage because PR dash does not equal fix dash. And then we see in the PR stage that it ran fine because our branch matched. Now let's go back over into Bitbucket and merge our pull request. So I'm going to click on approve. And then I'm going to click on merge. And let's watch what happens. So just to confirm, our source is fix 123, our destination is main, and we are closing the source branch. Okay, the pull request is merged. Let's go back over to micro 1. We can see now that fix 123 is obsolete as indicated by the strike through. We can see the pull request for PR3 is also obsolete. Now, if we wanted to clean these up, we can just say scan multi-branch pipeline now. This will force a cleanup of those obsolete branches. So you can see now that all that we have is main and 0 pull requests. Just to click on it to show it. Let's go take a look at main. So if we take a look at the output of main, we have our hello. Again, not real surprising. And we now see the two stages that we added initially down in fix 123 that came through the pull request, PR3. But these are both skipped because the when branch, fix dash star, doesn't match main, and PR dash star doesn't equal main. Now you may have noticed one thing that's a little bit different at the top of the micro 1 job. If we take a look at it again, we have a third tab that is for tags. Right now, there is no tag associated with this repository. Let's change that. Let's go back over to our shell and let's make sure everything's right. So let's get checkout main because we no longer have a fix 123. I'm going to do a get pull to make sure I'm up to date. And now we are. Let's clear that out. Now let's go ahead and create a tag. And let's give it a message. So we've created the tag now. Now we need to push the tag up to Bitbucket. So now we've created the tag at Bitbucket. Let's verify that real quick. So if we click back over to Micro 1, we can see under, if we click on main, we see there we have a main branch, no fix 123, so that's gone. And if I click on tags, we have v1.0. However, if we come back over to our job and I click on Micro 1 again, we still have 0 tags. And why is that? It's actually very simple. Remember, all configurations for Bitbucket project happen at the top level. So we have to go back up to, in my case, Darren Pope. Let's click on Configure. And let's go down into our behaviors. We have really just 2 behaviors here. There's 3, but really 2. We have a discover branches and we have a discover pull request. We just have 2 different flavors of discover pull request. What we don't have here is a discover tag. So if we go under add, under behaviors, we now can add discover tags. Now that we've added discover tags and we click on save, what's going to happen is it's going to go and rescan this account. And once that completes, let's go back and take a look at Micro 1. Now we can see we have 1 tag inside of Micro 1 and it's our v1.0. If we click into that, we can see that it did not automatically run. So if I wanted to run it, I would click on Build Now. And if I take a look at the output from this job, we're going to see our normal output. We have our hello, and we see that both stages were skipped because the tag is not PR dash, nor is it fix dash. So our tag works as expected here. Tags are not included by default. If you want to do it, great. If you don't, that's great as well. I just wanted you to be able to see how to do it in case you did. Now, up to this point, we've just been working with Micro 1. Let's go ahead and bring Micro 2 into the mix, but in a little bit different way. So let's go back over to our shell and let's go over to our Micro 2 repository. And instead of adding a Jenkinsfile here, at least by name, we are going to add a Jenkinsfile -m2. And the contents of this Jenkinsfile looks similar to the other Jenkinsfile, except it's just echoing out a Jenkinsfile -m2. Previously, we just echoed out Jenkinsfile. Let's go ahead and save this. We're going to do a git add for Jenkinsfile m2. Commit. And now we have pushed up our Jenkinsfile -m2 to the repository Micro 2. But do we expect to see Micro 2 in our job? The answer is no. And the reason why goes back to the project recognizer. Right now, the only project recognizer that we have is Jenkinsfile. So if I want to find a different repository that has Jenkinsfile-M2, then I need to add a new project recognizer that has the value of Jenkinsfile-M2. So I'm going to go ahead and add this new project recognizer and click on Save. Remember, anytime a save happens here and there are changes, a full organization scan is going to occur again. So let's take a look at this. We'll skip over Micro 1 for right now because we know it's fine. Let's take a look at Micro 2. And I'm going to highlight the section that applies to Micro 2. We're looking up Micro 2 for branches. We're checking branch main. There was no Jenkins file found. Think about the project recognizers and the order that they are in. Jenkins file is first. Jenkinsfile-M2 is second. So this is going through and checking each branch using the order of the project recognizer. So there was no Jenkins file found. Then we went ahead and finished up for pull request. Then we did the same thing again, but now I'm looking for Jenkinsfile-M2. And in this case, it was found. And then once it was found, it just stopped. Notice what we have up here with Micro 1. With Micro 1, it's a really fast check. Hey, I found a Jenkins file. Great, I'm done. I don't have to check anything else. Because once it found Jenkins file, it didn't need to check for Jenkinsfile-M2. There can only be one. So once it finds whatever the first match is, it says, that's it, I'm moving on next. It's a very key part to what project recognizers do. And we'll see that in a little bit later example. So now if we take a look back at our organization, we now have Micro 2. And if we take a look at the output of Micro 2 on the main branch, we're going to see that the output is hello from Jenkinsfile-M2, which is what that Jenkins file had in it. Notice how I'm saying it. It is a Jenkins file, it's just not named Jenkins file. The convention is to name your Jenkins file Jenkins file. But today, we're using a different name. You're going to see how this changes even more a little bit later. Now let me see if I can confuse you just a little bit. Let's say that I want to now add in a Jenkins file to the Micro 2 repository, but I want to leave my Jenkinsfile-M2 file there. So let's do that. I'm going to, here's my Jenkinsfile-M2. I'm going to copy Jenkinsfile-M2 to Jenkinsfile. So I'm not removing Jenkinsfile-M2. It's staying in the repository. I'm going to edit Jenkinsfile, and I'm just going to get rid of -M2. So this goes back to the original Jenkins file. And just so you can see it, I have a Jenkins file and a Jenkins file -M2. I'm going to go ahead and add Jenkins file. I'm going to commit, and I'm going to push. So now within my repository for Micro 2, I have 2 Jenkins files. Technically, right? There are two files that contain a declarative pipeline, one named Jenkins file, one named Jenkinsfile-M2. Which one of these two actually ran? So let's go back up to Micro 2 and take a look at main. In this last run, it's still pulling in the Jenkinsfile-M2 and not using the Jenkins file. And here's the reason why. Let's go back to our org folder and take a look at the log. The last time this organization was scanned was a few moments ago, and Micro 2 currently only knows about Jenkinsfile-M2. So we are in a wedge of time where we have a new Jenkins file there, but because this organization scan has not happened yet, again, based on how the job is currently configured, then the Jenkinsfile M2 is going to continue being the Jenkins file that is used. Let's change that a little bit. So I am on Darren Pope. In fact, let's go back to Micro 2 for just a second. Actually, no. Let's look at the log. Going back to Micro 2 here real quick. Here's the full output of Micro 2. Notice it's a little long. 15, 20, 25 lines, somewhere in there. We're doing a check first for Jenkinsfile and then a check for Jenkinsfile M2. What I want to do now is I want to scan the org folder now. And then I'm going to click on the folder log, which now we're scanning at 1325. Let's go back down to Micro 2. Here's where Micro 2 starts, and here's where Micro 2 ends. Now, since we have both a Jenkins file and a Jenkinsfile M2 in the repository, and our project recognizer order is set up in Jenkinsfile and then Jenkinsfile-M2, now what happens when Micro 2 was scanned, it picked up Jenkinsfile, and from this point forward until another scan occurs with a change in project recognizers, Micro 2 now uses, and it didn't fire off an automatic, so let's click on Build Now just to prove it. If we take a look at 3, we can see that obtained Jenkinsfile from the commit hash. And we can see from the output, it's just hello from Jenkinsfile. So by rescanning, and we see that we found a Jenkins file, now we're using our Jenkins file. But what if I want to reorder my project recognizers? Let's go and do that. So if we take a look at the configuration one more time inside of our organization, right now we have Jenkinsfile and then Jenkinsfile M2. Let's reorder the recognizers, so it's M2 first and then just plain Jenkinsfile second. When we click Save, the organization will be scanned again, and now the order is going to be M2 and then plain Jenkinsfile. Let's see what happens. If we take a look at M1, so proposing Micro 1, now our Micro 1 scan says, oh, I can't find an M2, but I found a Jenkins file. So now this is the longer one. But if we look now at our Micro 2, right there, since the Jenkinsfile-M2 was on top, that was first match, and then it jumped out. It's like, okay, I got it. I'm done. End of story. And if we take a look one more time at Micro 2, main, let's run this once. We're going to see on build number 4 that we are now using Jenkinsfile M2. But what if we have a number of repositories that need to use the exact same Jenkins file? Let's think about what we just looked at. Micro 1 and Micro 2 effectively have the same Jenkins file. Or it could, right? We could just use Jenkins file in both 1 and 2. But what I don't want to do is maintain Jenkins file in both Micro 1 and in Micro 2. CloudBees CI has a feature called marker files that eliminates this problem. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to assume that we no longer need a Jenkins file within our repositories. We are going to externalize our Jenkins file. So we're going to start with Micro 2 and clean it up. We're just going to go back to the beginning. So I'm going to say git remove. Actually, here, let's clear this up so it's a little bit easier to see. So I'm going to say git remove Jenkins file and Jenkinsfile-M2. The marker file concept is just I find a file and I go and do whatever it is. The contents of the file, at least in this case, make no difference. In fact, it's just going to be an empty file, and I'm calling it my marker file. So now if we take a look at our repository, we need to add my marker file. And if I do a git commit updated, so now we have deleted Jenkinsfile and Jenkinsfile M2, and we've created a my marker file that has no contents, and that's completely okay. Let's go ahead and push this to micro 2. Now what we're going to see when we push this to micro 2 in our repository is going to be interesting. So micro 2 now is considered to be obsolete because it does not have either a Jenkinsfile or a Jenkinsfile-M2. Let's go and reconfigure our job. Let's go down to our project recognizers. We're no longer going to be using M2 at all, so I'm just going to get rid of it. I'm going to go and add a custom script. This maps back to a marker file. So when we add a custom script, my marker file name is going to be my marker file. And here, I could put a pipeline script here, but that wouldn't be good because then this wouldn't be under version control. So I'm just going to change it to pipeline script from SCM. For the SCM, I am going to enter in a name. I have a repository on GitHub, funny enough, that has a bunch of different Jenkins files. It lives on the main branch. And the script path, or the Jenkins file name that I want to load in, anytime I find my marker file, I want to use this Jenkinsfile-basic from the main branch of this repository. Let's take a look at this repository real quick just so you can see what it looks like. So it's just a repository that has lots of Jenkins files. And if we take a look at Jenkinsfile basic, what's going to happen is on the agent that has a label of Linux, it's going to do a uname-a and a java-version. So let's go back and click Save. So as it scans now, we still have Jenkins file first, and we have our marker file second. So in the case of micro 1, it found a Jenkins file, kept going. For micro 2, let's take a look at this. We can see there was no Jenkins file found. There wasn't one there. But then we found a marker file, my marker file. So now if we take a look at micro 2, micro 2 found main. And if we take a look at the output for 5, we can see the output is uname-a and java-version. Let's say that I no longer want people to be able to put Jenkins files in their repositories. Well, technically there's no way I can stop them from putting a Jenkins file in their repository, but I can stop loading it. So if we go back up to our organization and I click on Configure, now under Project Recognizer, what I'm going to do is I am going to delete Jenkins file, pipeline Jenkins file, like just getting rid of that. So the only thing that I have from a Project Recognizer standpoint right now is my marker file. That's all. No other Project Recognizers. Now let's click on Save. What do you think is going to happen? We go through and scan micro 1. There's no my marker file found. Does micro 2. It found a marker file. And down here you can see will remove micro 1. So if we come back over to the organization, we can see Micro 1 has now been completely removed from this Bitbucket project job type. And in fact, not only was it removed, if we were to take a look at the repository settings for the webhook, now even the webhook has been removed because our controller is managing the webhooks for our repositories. As you've seen over these past few minutes, by using a Bitbucket project type, you as a CloudBees CI administrator can greatly simplify the amount of work that you have to do if you are in charge of creating jobs. Even if you are not a CloudBees CI administrator, but you're just maintaining jobs, if you're using Bitbucket and you set up a Bitbucket project job type in such a way that you've set up the configurations so that from that point forward, people can follow a convention. I put a Jenkins file here, I put a marker file here. Then every time a new repository or a new project comes online, you are not having to go into your controller to create new jobs. The new jobs will be automatically created for you. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach out to us on Twitter at CloudBeesDevs. If this video was helpful to you, please consider giving us a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to CloudBees TV yet, why not? Take a moment, click on that subscribe button, and then ring that bell, and you'll be notified anytime there are brand new videos on CloudBees TV. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.